Four men cut coal at the deepest face of a West Virginia mine, late 1980 S. The darkness behind their helmet lamps is absolute.
Almost there, boys. 10 more feet.
Without warning, all four helmet lamps extinguish simultaneously, not one at a time. All at once, the blackness swallows them completely. A miner's darkness where you cannot see your hand touching your own face.
David? Anyone?
6 seconds. An eternity. Then the lamps flicker back on, as if nothing happened.
Where's David?
David's spot at the face is empty. His cutting tool still runs, his lunch pail untouched on the wet floor. Richard and the two other men shout, sweeping beams up and down the tunnel. No answer, no sound of footsteps, nothing. In 6 seconds of impossible darkness, a grown man had vanished from the deepest section of the mine, leaving every piece of his gear behind. Richard leads the other two men down the main tunnel. Their helmet lights, the only thing pushing back the dark.
David, can you hear us?
They check every side passage, every abandoned crosscut. A set of footprints leads 30 yards from the face, then simply stops in the middle of the floor. 40 minutes pass like hours. At last, they round a bend into a junction half a mile back toward the entrance. David sits against a timber post.
Hey, just resting.
Resting? David, how in God's name did you get all the way back here?
I dunno. Must have walked. Wasn't paying attention.
His coveralls showed no sign of hurry. His lamp was on, battery full, but his eyes held nothing, as if the man had left them back at the face.
This man isn't lying. He genuinely doesn't remember. That's worse than any story he could tell.
They had found him, but whatever had walked him half a mile through the dark had left nothing behind, not a memory, not a scratch, not even a breath of explanation. Richard pulled David upright and checked his lamp. The charge was full, untouched. Another miner grabbed David's wrist. The watch face read 8:15 a.m. It was almost midnight.
David, it's almost midnight. Your watch says 8:15 a.m. How's that possible?
Don't remember changing it. Don't remember much of anything.
Heavy boots echoed down the junction. Foreman Cole swung around the corner, his face hard as coal.
What's this? Radio says a man's missing. I see 4 men here.
Cole glanced at David, then pulled his logbook. He wrote, "Lamp malfunction. Man located. No injury."
Y'all got your man. Work's done. We don't need rumors starting over a bad lamp.
He's burying it, no questions, no record of the real thing.
The official story, a minor electrical glitch. But Richard had seen the dark. He'd seen David's eyes, and he knew something else had been down there with them. That night, Richard did not sleep. He stared at the ceiling, replaying the darkness.
6 seconds. David walked half a mile without knowing it. What else happened in there?
The next shift, he cornered David near the tool locker. David flinched when Richard touched his shoulder.
I told you. I don't remember. Stop asking.
He's not lying. He's just gone.
Cole caught Richard in the passageway later. The foreman's grip on his arm was iron.
You keep digging. You'll turn up something that don't want to be found. For your own good, drop it.
Richard met his eyes but said nothing. He turned and walked back to the face.
Why had the lamps gone out? Why the watch? What else might be waiting in the dark?
He buried the memory under work and silence, but it never left him. The mine had shown him a truth he could not unsee. 5 years later, in a different mine, Richard overheard a young miner telling a story that froze his blood. The kid described lamps going black, a man vanishing in 6 seconds, reappearing with no memory, and the watch, off by exactly 14 hours.
You were there? You saw this happen?
The miner nodded. His foreman had logged it as a lamp failure and warned them not to talk.
He's describing my own nightmare, right down to the watch.
Richard asked if the missing man remembered anything. The answer made his skin prickle. The miner said the man was found sitting against a timber post, like he'd just sat down to rest.
Where did this happen?
Richard traced the location with his finger. It lined up perfectly with the deep seam he'd worked 5 years ago. The nightmare had a geography. Richard asked around quietly. A name surfaced, Old Gus, up Coal Creek, a man who'd seen strangeness in the 70s. He drove up a rutted road to a cabin where an old man in a rocker watched him approach. The old miner told of a 1972 incident. Lamps blacked out. A man vanished and reappeared with blank memory.
The mountain. He said it like it was alive and watching.
When Richard asked why, Gus said low, "The mountain does that sometimes. Don't go looking." Gus tapped a map. The spot he indicated lay directly over the deep seam. Richard drove home in silence and opened a new notebook. He wrote the date, location, and 14 hours. Over months, he added every account he could find. They all followed the same deep seam. Something inside the mountain was watching, and it left a signature. Richard stared at the web of lines. The nightmare now had geography, and it was waiting for him to understand. Evenings at home became quiet. Richard sat at the kitchen table long after supper, tracing mind maps while his wife spoke from the doorway. She asked him if he was ever coming back from the mine. He answered without looking up.
Just work. Had a production report due.
She waited for him to say more. He didn't. His wife walked away. Richard didn't notice. He was already drawn back into the web of tunnels.
She doesn't understand. Someone has to watch for it.
Late at night, he scanned old geological reports. One mentioned seismic anomalies along the deep seam.
Could that be it? Could the mountain be moving beneath us?
But the reports spoke of rock stress, not living will. The science explained nothing of David's eyes. The air between him and his wife grew brittle. They passed each other like strangers in a house of cold shadows. 10 years underground earned Richard a supervisor's hard hat. His radio crackled. A crew 4 levels down had lost a man during a lamp failure. The words hit like a cave-in. He ordered them to halt, but they were already searching.
Don't go looking. Wait for me.
The radio went dead. The crew pushed deeper, lamps scanning the dark for their missing man. When Richard caught up, they had found him. Sitting at an old crosscut, vacant-eyed, lamp still on.
Not again, not here.
He checked the man's wrist. The digital readout showed 9:07 a.m., near midnight. The 14-hour glitch. The crew stared as Richard asked about memory, but the man remembered nothing.
They think I am crazy, but it's the mountain. It's always the mountain.
The pattern was solid now, but Richard stood alone. The mountain had looked again, and no one else believed. Richard drafted a proposal to drill a test bore into the old sealed section, the heart of his map.
We could vent and check for instability. It's a safety measure.
The company's safety board saw only a gamble, risking a collapse, chasing ghost stories. The letter arrived a week later. Conduct unbecoming, unsanctioned research into unvalidated phenomenon.
Same as coal. They'd rather bury it than look.
A formal warning followed. Drop all superstitious behavior or face termination.
I can't stop now. The mountain will show itself again, and I need to be ready.
He filed the reprimand away and bought a notebook with a lock.
If they won't let me dig, I'll find the truth in paper and memory.
The sealed section stayed sealed, but so did Richard's mind. The truth, he knew, was waiting in the dark. 2 years after the reprimand, Richard sat in a dim conference room at a mine safety symposium, half listening. A geologist put up a slide mapping electromagnetic anomalies along a vertical cross-section. The data spiked along the deep seam.
That's the same seam. Every incident, right there.
The geologist admitted the cause was unknown. No equipment malfunction, no natural explanation fit.
Have you recorded any correlations with worker accidents or disappearances?
The room went quiet. The geologist hesitated, then said the data set was incomplete, but some readings coincided with reported anomalies. Richard copied the chart after the session. The EM spikes formed a pattern identical to his pushpin map.
It's real. There's a physical trace. The mountain is doing something we can measure, if not understand.
But the geologist's data couldn't explain the watch, or the memory loss, or why it all happened in 6 seconds of dark. Richard drove home with a new folder. Science had given him a question, not an answer, and the mountain kept its secret. In the basement of his home, Richard hung a topographical map of the entire mountain. He began pinning every incident he had confirmed. Each pin had a date and a note. Watch 14 hours off, no memory. The EM chart was taped to the corner. One night, he stepped back. The pins formed a tight cluster along a single seam. Not random.
This seam, it's all the same seam. Every one of them.
The seam was a 1,930s deep vein, worked for decades, then partially sealed in the 50s after unexplained collapses. He traced the sealed sections with a red marker. The line cut right through the center of his cluster.
Every incident, every watch wrong, every lost memory, right there. The mountain was looking from a fixed point.
The EM spikes aligned perfectly. Science and nightmare met in that sealed corridor. He stood alone in the dim light, surrounded by evidence no one else believed. The obsession had become his only companion. Somewhere deep inside that limestone, the mountain was watching, and Richard knew he could never reach it. Only wait, the rupture came without warning. One evening, he came home from shift and found her side of the closet empty.
She told me I was already married to the mountain. She wasn't wrong.
The divorce was a terse hearing in front of a judge. He didn't contest a single word. His son walked across a graduation stage. Richard spent the afternoon staring at an EM anomaly chart.
The photo still sits there, dust gathering on the glass.
Early retirement came soon after. His crew threw a small party in the break room. They had written, "Good luck, Richard," on the cake in blue icing. He cut into it and forced a smile.
They think I can rest now, but the map won't leave me.
He packed his office into a single cardboard box. The locked notebook and the EM chart went in last. In the dark kitchen, the topographical map spread across the table. He had lost everything except the question. Years later, a letter arrived from a university oral history project. They wanted to record miners' stories, routine work, not the dark.
They don't know what they're asking, but maybe. Just talking about the safe parts.
He drove to the campus on a damp morning, the folder of his map hidden in the truck.
Mr. Richard, thank you for coming. We'll just record your career. Nothing too personal unless you want.
Dr. Lyle was calm, her office lined with tape boxes and photographs.
All right. What do you need to know?
She set up a microphone and a reel-to-reel recorder, its whir soft in the quiet room.
This is just history. It doesn't have to be about the mountain.
The first questions were about surface work and union days. Richard's shoulders slowly lowered, but the locked notebook sat in his pocket, and the sealed section whispered at the edge of his mind. During a lull in the interview, Dr. Lyle casually mentioned that the archive held recordings from the 1960s. Miners who had worked deep seams now sealed off.
She said, sealed seams, like a footnote. What recordings from where?
One is from a mine sealed in 1963. A worker described an unusual event.
She set the box on the table. The label read, "Mine Incidents, 1962," in faded typewriter font.
That's the same year before my time. This is it. Play it now.
Lyle studied him for a long moment, then nodded and fed the reel into the machine. The reels began to turn. A soft hiss filled the speakers, like a breath held too long.
The first words are coming. I know what they'll be. The only question is how I bear it.
From the hiss, a voice emerged. Old, hollow, layered in tape age. A miner from 1962, speaking slowly into a microphone.
We was cutting at the far end of 7 South when every helmet lamp went black. 6 seconds maybe, felt longer. When they come back on, Walt was gone, his cutter still running. We shouted, nothing. We searched maybe 40 minutes, found him setting at a junction, calm as Sunday. Didn't recall walking. His lamp was full. But his watch, it read 14 hours wrong. Exactly 14.
Richard's hands turned white on the table edge. The 14 hours. The exact words.
That's my story. 30 years before I was born.
Mr. Richard? Do you know what he's talking about?
Richard couldn't answer. The tape kept rolling, and he knew the worst part was still coming. The recording hissed, and a question echoed from the past. What do you think it was? The tape crackled for a long moment. Then the answer came, slow and worn like stone.
The mountain takes a look at you sometimes. If it lets you go, you don't ask why.
Richard's jaw locked. The words he had never dared to form, spoken 40 years before he ever went underground.
That's it. That's the only truth. The mountain decides.
I've never played this section aloud before. The man's answer is unsettling.
The tape machine clicked off. The silence that followed was deeper than the mine. Richard sat motionless, the echo of that old voice settling into the cracks of everything he'd sacrificed.
40 years. And I was only waiting for someone to say it.
Lyle leaned back, her professional demeanor fissured. She had only meant to archive history, not unearth it. But Richard felt no satisfaction, only the cold weight of a truth larger than proof, older than the mine and utterly indifferent to his pain.
Mr. Richard, you've heard a story like this before, haven't you?
Not heard, lived.
He spoke. The words came out rusted, as if they'd been sitting in the dark.
1987, 4 of us at the face. Lamps went black, 6 seconds. When they came back, David was gone, just his lunch pail and cutter. We found him half a mile back, sitting. He didn't remember walking, and his watch was 14 hours off. Exactly.
The same 14 hours? That's impossible.
Richard slid the locked notebook across the table. Inside, pin maps, EM charts, a red circle around the sealed seam. She flipped through the pages. Her hand stopped on the cluster of incidents, dates, watches, identical descriptions.
This goes back decades. You've been tracking the same seam, the same visitations.
For the first time in 30 years, someone believed him. The weight of that belief pressed into the room like a new darkness.
The mine in that recording was 7 South. It collapsed in 1963. They sealed it with concrete 2 months later.
She turned the photograph toward him. The image showed men pouring concrete, their faces blank, the mine mouth already half closed.
Never reopened.
Never. The roof came down on an entire crew. The company sealed it and walked away.
Richard's mind raced back to the EM chart, the push pins, the cluster. It all sat directly behind that seal.
Where is it? The exact location.
A road past Coal Creek. The portal's under kudzu now, but the seal's still visible. It's on the old county survey.
So it's still there. The mountain's still looking out from behind that concrete. I need to go there today.
She gave him the coordinates and watched him leave. The photo remained on the table. The sealed mine a dark promise. The old pickup crawled up a rutted track through a tunnel of bare branches, rain streaking the glass. The kudzu-covered portal emerged from the fog, a gray concrete seal stamped with a faded 1963. Richard stepped out, the drizzle cold on his neck, and walked toward the wall.
All those maps, those pushpins, the EM charts. And it comes down to a concrete slab that feels like a held breath.
He pressed his palm flat against the concrete. The rock was wet, cold, and rough with age. Beneath the cold, a tremor, so deep and faint it might have been his own pulse.
Are you watching now? Did you take David and Eugene and the others?
The mountain gave no answer, just the low hum or its absence, and the cold.
I spent half my life chasing a question, and the answer is a wall.
He let his hand fall, the skin still tingling, and stood in the cold mist. The mountain had shown its face, but not its purpose. Beside the concrete, Richard closed his eyes. Behind the lids, he saw David's face, the hollow eyes, the half-moon of a smile, just resting.
And the watches, always wrong by 14 hours, ticking in some time that wasn't ours. It did look at us. The mountain looked.
His voice fell flat against the stone. No echo, just the sound of rain.
Eugene knew it. Gus knew it. Even Cole knew it. and tried to bury it.
He understood now, not with logic but with a weight in his chest. The mountain decided. It had always decided.
If it lets you go, you don't ask why. I'll never go underground again. Not a drift, not a shaft, not a hole in the ground.
The thought brought no relief, only a quiet finality, like a steel door closing on a pitch-black tunnel. He stepped back from the seal, the mountains cold still in his palm, and chose the surface. He turned and walked, not looking back. The gravel crunched under his boots, the sound swallowed by the mist. The rain tapered off as he reached the pickup. The sky bruised gray but held. He opened the door and paused. The sealed mine was a dark shape in the mirror, but he did not turn his head. The engine turned over, a rough sound in the silence. He put the truck in gear and released the brake. For the first time in decades, his shoulders slumped slightly, not from defeat, but from yielding a weight he could no longer carry. He drove down the track, the mountain filling the rear view like a silent back. It did not call him. It did not need to. By the time he reached the main road, the mist had lifted, but the cold stayed, a permanent chill that no heater could touch. He did not smile. He did not weep. He simply kept driving, the miles unspooling like a slow exhale. The mountain grew smaller behind him, but it never disappeared. It was part of him now, like the coal dust under his fingernails. Somewhere in the dark behind the seal, a deep thing kept its own time. Richard drove on, but he knew it was still there. Night fell over the sealed mine, the mountain black against a starless sky. The portal was a darker void in the rock, the concrete seal wet with dew. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then, deep within the concrete, a faint glimmer, a helmet lamp, the same glow from the 1962 photograph, flickered once, impossibly, behind the seal. It burned for 3 seconds, illuminating the ghost of a silhouette, then died.
If it lets you go, you don't ask why.
The words hung in the night air, then faded. The mountain returned to silence, the portal black and still. The wind moved through the kudzu, but nothing else. Somewhere beneath the rock, an old watch ticked a time that wasn't ours, and the mountain kept its watch.